I think the third one has to be done. Maybe it happens later. But I think this is the hottest time to do it, and to me, it's like, hey, man, the first one Nate dominated, and I don't think there's something the second fight is not something Conor can walk away from and be like, okay, I took care of that. Now moving on. It was like, ooh.
Yeah, whoever you give that second round to won that fight.
Yeah.
Or to draw.
And that's, yeah, exactly. And it was hard. I watched the fight as a corner man, you know what I mean? And it's just an amazing fight to see right there toe to toe. But there's just unfinished business. And it's hard to like say, hey, he won that round. It's like I look at it differently. I look at it like, who was going to die first, you know what I mean? And, and who's going to last longer. And I don't like the whole round system, just kind of even look at it that way. But that's the way we do have to score it. But anyways, at the end of it all, I just knew it was unfinished business. We need another one.
That's what they need to call it. They need to call it unfinished business right there.
Sure. Put it on a poster. Yeah, it was so interesting, Gil, because it did record numbers. That came out. It did a huge gate. It did huge pay-per-view. The fighters both wanted it. The fans all wanted it. You got the storyline where they're one apiece. Conor calls for the new weight class, which was a smart and cool move by Conor, right? He did his part like he always does. Nate answers. In any other scenario, we have the fight. That's all you need. The promoter always says yes if he can get all these pieces together. This is a weird one where you've got all the pieces together, and the promoter goes, I don't know if I want to do it. And I think a lot of that is because, Dana's a chess player. He's not playing checkers where he's just looking for tomorrow and then, tear down and move to the next city like a guy doing a circus. He's planning 3 and 4 shows ahead. Sometimes he's planning 12 months ahead. So maybe there's where you have a bit of a roadblock where it's like, look, I can't hold the 45-pound strap up anymore. I just can't. I've got to get Conor back there. But I think with the addition of Pedersen to that weight class, all of a sudden you've got some major parity. I think with the addition of you dropping into that weight class, and all of a sudden we got you versus Aldo, you versus the winner of Pedersen. There's all sorts of things that happen if you change weights, and Pettis did change the weight, that might encourage and take a little backroom pressure off of Conor having to go down, which again comes back to give us Diaz Conor 3. That's what we want to see.
Super Bowl weekend, give it to us and let's go. Because if you think you're going to run Conor out there against Eddie, and it's going to be a walk in the park, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, that's the truth. If Conor loses again, and he loses to someone, it won't even, I don't know if it'll even be dominated. It can dilute it. But I think regardless, however it plays, and they have to play this the way they play. Like you said, I don't know what Dana's envisioning, and that's what's hard to say. And it all makes sense, the third one. But I'll watch that third fight no matter what. If it's a fight down the road, 2 fights down the road, I still want to see that third fight.
That's true.
Regardless.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you could do it later. And the answer on what do you do with Conor, that's a pretty easy one.
You just give up the strap and move on.
You give up the strap, you move on. But, you throw him back to 45, you throw him back to 55. I think the question on what do you do with Nate becomes a little bit tougher because, Nate has things that he wants to do. Nate's going to share his opinion. A lot of guys don't. A lot of guys just sign it, okay, whatever's next. Nate will stand up for himself. And Nate will go, no. Nate is one of the few guys that will say, no, let's try this again. So as I play matchmaker, I think that I don't know what to do with Nate. Let's put him in there, which comes back to Conor.
Nate had the Brinks truck come up to his house 2 times in a row. So you're not going to go over to Nate's house and say, hey, come and fight for,
the old contract.
Yeah, come and fight for X. He's going to say silly somewhere else. I'm good. I'm going on a bike ride. I'm going to go swim a mountain.
Yeah, Gil, what do you think? What would you do with what would Nate's other move be? Go back to 55, stay at 170. What do you think? They were talking about Nate versus Lawler. Now that talk was for the strap. It wouldn't be for the belt now, but do you do Nate versus Lawler? Do you do Nate versus GSP? What do you do with Nate if not Conor 3?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and I think, Nate is in that great scenario now where, he gets to pick his fight. And for him, he's not really concerned with the title. He's looking for the biggest fight. And he's no rush in for it. So I think he waits and he lets things play out. I think, he's no rush to jump on Conor. He feels like he's the big winner of it all. I think Nate, I would like to see him fight for the belt. I'd like to see him beat Eddie Alvarez. I think he could beat Eddie Alvarez. I fought Eddie. I know he'd beat him. If that's the fight, though, that makes much sense business-wise, no, but I could just see him being a champ. But he wants the big fight. He wants the big name fight, and there's not as many big names on our 155-pound division, and everything makes sense for the Conor. And I'm stuck on that with you guys. I haven't really looked past it, and I think he's chilling too.
Yeah, it's a hard one to get around. You can play all these different scenarios, and you can even get excited about some of them, but you can't get as excited as doing it part 3. And then, fighters always want to talk about legacy, and I don't get into that as much as some guys, but I realize it's a real thing, and it's like, look, let's just say we don't do it. Let's say we don't do part 3 and figure this thing out, which historically is always what you do when you've got a split, one to this guy and one to that guy. You always do a part 3, but let's just say you don't. Down the road, that's going to reflect poorly on Conor. It will be unfair to Conor. Conor won't deserve that. He walked out there twice, but it will. I just know. I know what reporters, I know what I'm going to say. I just know the way we're going to play it. We're going to go, well, yeah, but he was 1-1. He still owes Nate that third fight. The time is now. It's going to come up sometime. They're going to have to do it again. Do it now.
Everybody needs to start beating the drum and getting that fight out there. It's crazy to tell me that is not the fight to make. I mean, the UFC was, they kind of built their model on really promoting the belt and promoting the belt and promoting the belt. But as a fan, again, man, I'm a fan.